You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think there is another variety of toughness that's more of the kind of like intangible nature, Chris, because it's a mental toughness as well, because this may be the first week, and I hadn't watched every minute of what the Utes have had going on. I've seen every minute of what Texas Tech has had going on. But this may be the first week, certainly for the Red Raiders, possibly for both, where you've really got to respond to an adverse situation. And that's not just about the trenches. It's the deep snapper. It's the wideout. It's the third-team kick returner. All these guys have got to be tough in that way, right? Which is a little bit, maybe even more difficult to achieve. Like playing hurt toughness, that should be easy for most at this level that are on a college football roster. But it's that headspace toughness that may be a little bit more difficult, especially in an environment like that.
In a game like this, regardless of where it was being played, you're going to deal with something that's not advantageous. I think, yesterday it was one or both of the coordinators were like, hey, man, something bad's going to happen. We'll potentially give up a big play, or offensively, like we may turn it over, but how do you respond? How do you handle, can you live out the what's next mentality, and or do you melt? And that's when you learn a lot about what you've put together here, or what you think you've put together here. And do we see any cracks? Do they not flinch? And you can, and it's Division I college football. You're going to deal with adversity. You're going to deal with bad calls. You're going to deal with Mother Nature and a rain delay. You're going to deal with an early kickoff. You're going to deal with the ball getting tipped up in the air. And does it land in your guys' hands, or does it land in the other guy's hands? That's the and I could be wrong, but because in the one show that I did where just a portion of what I said was pulled out, where it talked about you could go up there and thump them, is I also said that they could thump you. I would be shocked if this is not one of these one possession type games like the Big 12 has become known for. What was it, like 72% of the time? 72% of league games last year ended in one possession at the end, or whatever, or within one possession, or whatever that stat was. And I would expect this to be the same, because if they can run the ball, and this is what they're going to attempt to do, even if they don't have success with it, they will stick with it and lean on it. So you'll have to stop this consistently. This is going to be one of those limited possession games. You may only hold the ball 7-8 times. That's kind of like when you that's why I mentioned the Iowa State, Kansas State stuff. That should sound familiar to you.
Yeah, I mean, these are historically, and by historically I mean, I don't know, going on 2 decades at least, the type of context that Tech has not been successful in, where you're facing a methodical, punish you, don't do stupid things, take advantage of special teams type of situations. Teams, you don't stack up well. But that's because in so many of those areas you were deficient previously. Like we said a moment ago, you have efforted to make it that way, and that you're built to now compete in this type of space. Here's your first big test of the year, so we'll find out. But, Chris, I want to focus in on the ground game because obviously that's where it's got to start, as you said many times. But I don't know that we immediately start with ball carriers or running backs. Do we go straight to Devin Dampier and the QB to talk about how you're going to try to begin to contain, or maybe even dream of stopping it outright?
Yeah, I mean, he's their leading rusher. I think he's got – and the problem with him is, like a lot of dual-threat quarterbacks, is that most of this, or a lot of this anyway, is not called runs. It's not designed. It's when you – it's like trying to defend a Kyler Murray. I think Joey mentioned Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts in like back-to-back weeks when he was at Baylor, and he was having to draw that up because you want to rush, okay, but you can't go too far upfield, or you're just inviting this player to step up, and then away they go. And if you spy them or allocate a defender to kind of mirror what they're doing, okay, then that's one less rusher, that's one less somebody in coverage, that's you're allocating personnel And so, but yeah, he's the problem. You will recognize the name of Wayshawn Parker, is also one of their top two backs. Wayshawn Parker played for Washington State last year, 11 carries, 69 yards, had a touchdown against you when you were up in Pullman last year. So this will be a familiar running back. He's a good player. I don't know if these are – you're not dealing with like Devin Dampier is the one that makes you the most nervous because he's the one that can really make something out of nothing. The other two are just good Big 12 backs. But it's Dampier that – because you can kind of be in the right place and there to make the play and then not make it. And then, mm-hmm. That's the problem. And we know this. I do think you are better equipped to handle this than ever before. But how many times over the years have we talked about players or plays in games where like, boy, you were almost there. Like if you'd have just been a half second there earlier, or where you had a hand on him and just couldn't quite bring him down.
Hold on, Chris. I was actually going to grab my cocktail if we were going to go ahead and get into like Seneca Wallace conversation or the PTSD portion.
Yeah.
Lee Hunter doesn't know anything about this. Romello Height doesn't know anything about this. Red Raiders, long term, we know too much about this. First, today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We all make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You're going to love how easy and simple it is to use. And of course, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. With PrizePicks, run your game. This has been, man, and you're exactly right. So many of these situations where it's the feeling of, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Whoops, 60 yards the other way. So frustrating.
Or in Seneca Wallace's case, I happened to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, at that on that particular Saturday evening. That's when my sweet mother. I'd been sitting in the sports book all day. I wasn't doing the broadcasting thing just yet, and I had maybe been in the sports book for a period of time that day, and I had these little stir sticks. And I'd kind of been putting them in my shirt pocket, whenever. And my mom and her buddies and some other people, they went shopping, and she came back and she's like, her famous words were, "Is the captain drunk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I might be," whatever. And then, because at this point, I'm like, Seneca Wallace, it's like he ran one side of the field, back to the other. I mean, it was like an amusement park ride. I'm like, I want to get off. Like, I want off this ride. I don't want to be on this ride anymore. And the room started spinning.
You couldn't get off. You were strapped in for 4 quarters.
That's right.
And he's not the only. He's just the one that I know stands out as a visible reminder.
I mean,
Chris, what over those years in the moments where you saw Tech defenses really struggle with that? I know there were a lot of just really good players. Vince Young, generational player. So a lot of people struggled with that. But I think about like having to really be disciplined, I guess, when you're dealing with somebody like Dampier or that type of quarterback. But when it's gone wrong, what are these defenses not doing that you think makes it so difficult?
Well, you want to make him throw it. That's what you want to make these. You want to take away their ability to run the football and like make him beat you with his arm. That's where I think, and he's capable of doing that. But I think you would like to see what that looks like. I think their personnel up front is built to run the ball. I think their personnel at QB and their running back room is built to run the ball. I don't know if they're built to try to score 40 points in some sort of shootout and throwing it all over the place. That's not really how they're built. Just like Texas Tech may not necessarily is not built to be able to run the ball and all that. They're built right now maybe to throw it. And spread it out and really kind of play fast and all those things. But it's just if defensively, it comes down to Kyle Whittingham is stated this. It's like our formula right now, playing really well on first and second down, so we don't avoid third and long. Our formula has been, but if we can continue to do that, we're straight. And again, that sounds like an obvious, but that's been their formula.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, that's been their formula, because I think they know that maybe they aren't built to operate in 3rd and 8 if they have to lean on that a bunch. And I'm not saying that they can't execute that or make plays there. I'm just saying, over the long term, I think that they would prefer to kind of hammer it at you, shorten the game, limit your possessions, and let their quarterback kind of pull a rabbit out of his hat more often than not.
Well, we're almost out of time today, but I definitely want to revisit this part with you, because I want to get into some comments from a Utah perspective about sort of that methodology. And I also want to take a listen to some thoughts from Shill Wood, Tech defensive coordinator, as well, because I'm really wondering, does this mean maybe some less aggression or a more muted pass rush in some way to try and keep things in front of you? I don't know, but I want to get back to that with you on tomorrow's episode. So we'll hear from Coach Wood and others on that, as I think, as we're talking about, it's the crux of the issue here this week and probably a lot of weeks as you roll through this season. Before we're done, though, Chris, I am curious to get your thoughts on, now after some time passing and getting into this week, the roster that changes a little bit now as we get into Big 12 play and you hit the road and you got to make some decisions as to who's traveling or otherwise.